You see, Pakistan is probably has one of the best strategic locations anywhere in the world. We have, on our south, we have the Gulf, the world's biggest oil and energy supply, oil and gas. On the north, we have China, the biggest market, and then we have Central Asia through Afghanistan and Iran on the other side. And then we have India on the other side, which is the second biggest market. So Pakistan probably has the greatest location where the world is moving ahead in the future. The economy that is growing very fast is China, and then India, of course, is a big economy, and then you have the energy supply. So the location of Pakistan is as good, if you look ahead, better than any other country in the world. The second thing we have is the second youngest population in the world. We have 220 million people, a young population. So Pakistan is, if we can, as we have stabilized our economy, if we can now improve our governance system, improve the ease of doing business. Already in 1 year, we were one of the top 10 countries which went up 28 points in ease of doing business. So if we can keep progressing in the direction, then Pakistan will become the hub of investment. You see, climate change is going to affect the whole world. And Pakistan, of course, is one of the countries that is going to be affected more because we rely upon the water in our rivers. 80% of the water in the rivers comes from the glaciers in the mountains. Yeah. Now, as the weather warms up because of climate change and global warming, then the glaciers have started melting at a faster pace. So in the future, the worry is that the water into our rivers will be reduced if the glaciers keep melting at a faster pace. What we are trying to do, of course, Pakistan, what it can do is, for a start, we have started a massive reforestation campaign. We have set ourselves a target of 10 billion trees. 10 billion trees in the next 4 years. And secondly, we have decided that we will change our energy mix into 40% would be renewables in the next 10 years. So that our emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, are decreased. But of course, global warming is not, Pakistan will do whatever it can, yeah. But of course, the whole world has to join in if it has to reduce the impact of global warming. You see, first of all, to understand what is happening in Kashmir, you have to understand what's happening in India. And what's happening in India is that India has been taken over by an extremist racist ideology, which is called the RSS. And this ideology believed that India belongs to Hindus. It's called Hindutva. So they actually, this ideology was inspired by the Nazis in the 1930s. They believe, just like the Nazis believed in the Aryan race, the German race, they believed in the Hindu race. The only problem is there are 500 million people who will be excluded in India from this exclusive racist ideology. So it has been taken over by extremists. This RSS extremist assassinated Gandhi. Yeah. They were 3 times declared as a terrorist organization in India. Now, since they've taken over India, the minorities have been squeezed in India. There have been violence against the minorities, specifically Muslims. But in Kashmir, what they have done is, they have violated their own constitution, which was Article 370, and they have changed the status of Kashmir unilaterally. Kashmir is a dispute between Pakistan and India, a dispute acknowledged by the world community, by the United Nations Security Council. And so what they have done is they've gone against the Security Council resolutions. Then there was a bilateral agreement, similar agreement between Pakistan and India. They've gone against that. And they have annexed Kashmir. But in order to do that, they have clamped down a curfew on 8 million people of Kashmir for almost 6 months now.
Yeah.
And they have 900,000 troops there. They have put all their leadership in prisons. They have whisked away thousands of young teenagers into various prisons outside Kashmir. So it is a serious situation there. And so Pakistan, of course, has raised it on every forum and United Nations, with humanitarian organizations, Amnesty International, so with world leaders. And that's why we are very appreciative of President Erdogan, because he has condemned this
United Nations.
In the United Nations, this illegal and violating all humanitarian laws, what is happening in Kashmir. Well, the coronavirus is, we hope that it will be contained and it is, China can deal with it. And we pray for China because, it's awful what they must be going through there. And of course, Pakistan is extending all help possible towards China. I can't say about this trade war between the US and China, how long this will go on, but it doesn't affect Pakistan, it affects China. Firstly, the debt from China is a very small part, a small percentage of our total debt portfolio. So this thing is quite unfounded that Pakistan is getting into a debt trap with China. Secondly, yes, the connectivity, we hope to, because when the Turkish delegation comes in a couple of weeks, we hope to involve them in further using CPEC for further connectivity, and we hope to involve Turkey in this.
Inshallah.
Well, let me just state the fact that I firmly believe that conflicts, military conflicts do not solve problems. They increase problems. They have unintended consequences. You try to solve one problem, it creates far more problems, and we have seen this. We have seen the two Afghan wars, one the Soviets, when they invaded Afghanistan, and we saw the sort of bloodshed that took place, and then the impact on Pakistan. Then we saw the war on terror again, this time the US and Afghanistan, the impact on Pakistan. So I'm a firm believer that this conflicts are not a way to solve problems. And therefore we would try everything to avoid another conflict with another neighbor involved in it, which is Iran, and especially Saudi Arabia, which is a brotherly country. Last thing we want is a neighbor, Iran, fighting with a brotherly country, Saudi Arabia, or the US and Iran in some sort of a conflict, because we believe everyone will suffer. No one really wins a war. It's just that people get damaged less, but everyone gets damaged. And we should learn from the experience of China. While this war on terror was going on, China was building this great infrastructure. You look at the train infrastructure, I mean, it's probably the best in the world. So they were putting the resources in developing infrastructure while these conflicts were taking place. And look at all over the Muslim world, from Syria to Libya to Iraq, what happened there, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yemen. It's just death and destruction. So I feel Pakistan's role will be now to put out fires, to play the role of conciliation, getting people together rather than joining any conflicts. I think, we can only try our best. The Almighty only expects us to try our best. The rest we leave in His hands. Well, after the missile attack in Saudi Arabia on the oil facility, Pakistan played its part. We spoke to Saudi Arabia, went to Iran, spoke to the United States. This is last September, October. And actually, we feel we played our part in sort of bringing down tensions. But of course, there has to be some more of a permanent solution. At the moment, things are still tense, but for a time I feel that we have averted war. There was a time when it seemed that there could be actually a conflict. But at the moment, it looks as if things are cooling down. However, I think more of an effort needs to be made, and we will be trying our best.
So if you averted the war, that is big news.
Averted. We think we averted a conflict. I mean, I'm talking about when the missile strikes took place in Saudi Arabia. So when we tried our best to play our part. But, we can only try. And we should always try. Because there is nothing worse than a conflict amongst neighbors. And what that will do, and we've seen what's happened in Afghanistan, and especially in the Gulf, if there's a conflict, oil prices will go up, all the poor countries in the world will suffer.